Hello, welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. It's bright and early, and we're here to do what we love to do, to share the community with you, as well as track the polity as well. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, guys.
Yes,
my
indeed.
people.
Indeed, Jeffrey. It's a brand new day, brand new week, brand new opportunities, and a fresh start. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. We're live from you here in our nation's capital. I am Bukola Koka.
Yeah, so Bukola just crowned Lagos the nation's capital. But yeah, there's commercial somewhere
capital.
in between, and I understand. Lagos deserves that, right? But that's water under the bridge. Welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Okikolu.
So guys, I saw a video before I go to Bukola's. Bukola wants to change the constitution, but you can't do that on this show. All right.
Don't worry, I'll have to join maybe the House of Representatives or something. Go ahead.
You will tell me your salary.
That would be the day, bro.
Yeah, I understand where that's coming from. But go ahead, Jeffrey.
That'll be the day. The House will hear it. Look forward to it.
Yeah, because we will need more women. Like the Senate, we just have 4 of them. It's a abysmal number compared to even the last Senate. So I don't know what's going on with the women. We just need to do something to have more women in that space. 4 women out of 109.
Even compared to the early history of Parliament in Nigeria, the numbers are dismal. But I'm not considering joining.
Anyway, I wanted to...
Never say never.
Never say never. Yeah, that's true. Never say never. They could just, one party could just say, take, come, behold,
Jeffrey, let's move forward, please.
Okay, I'm just joking. Okay, I saw a video of the heroics of the policemen, because when they do well, we need to celebrate them. You know, I'm sure you saw that story of the armed robbers or kidnappers, as they call it, around Ladipo area. They were neutralized or killed by the Nigerian police force. About 9 of them, we understand, 2 escaped. But people were describing how that happened. People who witnessed it said it was like they were watching, what do you call it? Is it SEAL team now? Those American
guys. Right, yeah, there's a SEAL.
It was so professional. It
SWAT.
was so, yeah, SWAT. Yeah. It was absolutely clinical. They were like asking themselves, is this the Nigerian police? And it's clear to tell you that if it's in terms of talent and people who can do the job, they're all over the place. The system is always a problem. So we want to applaud the Nigerian police, because we understand that those young men will go kidnap, well-to-do people. And I understand in this instance, they were coming to kidnap somebody they had kidnapped before, who had paid ransom. But the police got wind of it, and they've been trailing them for months, and they did a fantastic job in keeping us safe. So when they do well, we will celebrate them. So kudos to the Nigerian police force.
Absolutely, and I think that's what this is about, really. When they do great stuff, we applaud them. And I think it's clear that Nigerians want to support, if it's law enforcement, anti-corruption agencies, because you understand that the work they're doing is to, safeguard you, protect you, and all of that. So, but I don't want us to take it for granted. There's meeting ourselves halfway. So you build the trust, and people naturally will meet you halfway. So when people see things like this, next time a policeman is around them, they'll be tempted to show more respect. They say respect is earned, actually. It's not demanded, really. Forget that you're in the Constitution and you wear the uniform. You have to also earn it by the things you do. So I hope that we'll see more of this. And also, I think the police should push out more, messaging, push out the good ones. Let the good ones be the ones we see, really. And I bet you, you'll be overwhelmed by the love from Nigerians. Absolutely. So it's a great one. I should just mention again, here in Lagos, it looks like it's about to rain. And I know a lot of people have said people swim to work in Lagos and all of that. We don't feel good hearing that. So I hope that we're prepared for this next round of flooding, or at least rainfall, because this Monday looks like it might just be a rainy Monday. So keep that in mind as you go out today.
Well, as we commend the Nigeria police, it's important to also take a close look at that process and find out what may have been done correctly or differently, and try to replicate it or improve upon it. Is it training that has been done differently? Is it an improvement in operational, structure or infrastructure that has been rejigged, that has been improved upon? If that is the case, then perhaps that needs to be replicated also in other commands, in other states of the Federation, such that we can have similar success stories, because more than ever before in our history, this is the time when we need an improved police force, an improved system for all security agents, such that we can all continue to record more successes. And this is just to say that there are a lot of expectations from Nigerians. Over the weekend, we also saw that the Federal Capital Territory Minister provided 50 operational vehicles for all security agents across board in the FCT. And just before that, we had also begun to see that the command in the capital had begun to record some successes in the arrest of kidnappers who had been notorious for terrorizing council areas in the FCT. So there are a lot of expectations from that, from the capital as well, in terms of improved safety, and more arrests of kidnappers and all other, terrorists who have been making life difficult for, residents of the Federal Capital Territory and indeed across board. So this needs to be studied closely such that we can have these kinds of success stories across board. And we might also add as well that more accountability in the expenditure of security vote from state governors. We want to see more operational vehicles for our security agents.
All right, so yes, there's a lot. That's a very thorny issue, an issue that may require legislation. Security votes are not accounted for. That's why people are wondering whether it will ever be accounted for, or there should be a legislation to account for it. But they just give them to take care of the security affairs of your state. Whether they use it well or they don't use it, another kettle of fish. But we're talking security this morning as well. So if you go to the northwest, the issue of banditry, to the northeast, the issue of terrorism, and you go to the central, it's a combination of both, and you come down south, kidnapping, agitation. What exactly is going on? We've seen resurgence of bombing in terms of suicide bombing, remember, in Borno State. And now the level of insecurity we're seeing in places like Kaduna is very, very concerning. So we're wondering exactly what is going on as far as insecurity is concerned in the country. What is this? It's not as if it was altogether off, but there's some kind of a coordinated chaos we're experiencing. That's the conversation we'll be having today on the program.
Well, if that is taken care of, perhaps businesses will then thrive. And that's why we're turning our attention as well to small and medium-sized enterprises, which is the backbone of the economy, accounting for more than 84% of employment and contributing significantly to the country's GDP. But however, these businesses are struggling beneath the of lack of power supply and indeed double-digit interest rate and lack of availability of loans from the banks. So we'll touch on that sector this morning, especially as we try to understand, come up close with the challenges from the businessmen and women themselves. So join us on the program today. We're going to be hearing from them.
Absolutely. So are you a businessman? Do you know a business? Okay, let me take that again. Are you a business person? Do you know a business person? So send in your thoughts, some of the challenges you face. It's going to be a roundtable really on the show this morning. We're going to be speaking with people who are feeling the heat or otherwise. So be a part of it, absolutely. You can do this across social media. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can drop your message. #CTV Morning Brief. Let us know about your experience, if it's about security in any part of the country or doing business or at the receiving end of business. And you can also do this on WhatsApp. You see the WhatsApp number on your screen from time to time. That is the number with which you can reach out to us. If you've got a video, send it in. If you've got a question, send it in. If you've got a comment, hey, send it in. That is our, what do you call it again? We call our hand of fellowship, right?
Your words, Kadi.
My words. Mm-hmm. You know what?
Our channel for relationship.
I like that. So that's how you can be a part of the show today.
Absolutely. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it will be time for your top stories. Join us again. Top on the brief this morning, the Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS, has decided that President Bola Tinubu remains in office as chairman just 1 year after he took over the leadership of the regional body. So he's been re-elected. The president, who took office in May 2023, was re-elected as the ECOWAS chairman during the 65th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, which took place in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, just at the weekend. In his opening remarks at the summit, President Tinubu asked member states to make extra commitment to the provision of financial resources to help fight against terrorism in the region.
Let me underscore that a peaceful and secure society is essential for achieving our potential. As we move to operationalize the ECOWAS Standby Force, ESF, in combating terrorism, I must emphasize that the success of this plan requires not only strong political will, but also substantial financial resources. It is imperative that we unite as a community and develop innovative approaches to unleash our vast economic potential. We must continue to identify and develop partnerships that promote investment in key sectors and promote regional trade. I've accepted to continue the service with great members and great minds that are committed to democratic value and the journey for us in the region. I'll continue my utmost best to serve our interests and build on democratic value and the structure that we inherited.
Away from that, Samoa agreement appears not to be whittling down anytime soon. The deal, which the federal government signed with the European Union and other African countries, as well as Caribbean and Pacific states, is said to contain certain uncomfortable clauses, while the federal government says none of the articles of agreement infringes on the country's laws, especially the issue of the LGBTQ. The Christian clerics are asking the federal government to take better responsibility over the country's development.
Form of agreement that should tie our country to any other country in the world, conditioning us to submit our morality for any piece of bread. We cannot go into any local agreement to begin to support lesbianism or any form of godless style of living.
Away from that, in Benue State, its High Court has fixed August the 1st, 2024, to hear the preliminary objections filed by the state government in a suit brought against it by Long River Mining Corporation over the impoundment of 15 truckloads of assorted mineral resources explored from Kwande local government area of the state. Justice John Seshi, while fixing August the 1st for hearing, ordered service to be served on Adikpo Divisional Police Officer who has continued to impound the trucks and its contents since March the 14th over allegations of tax evasion and laboratory testing.
We came here at this instruction. We arrived here and the DPO in Adipo has helped matters while the trucks were just passing. He was able to park them through the instructions of His Excellency. He was able to park the trucks so that issues could be verified, what they are carrying, what license they have, and the activities of the mining are not unassociated with some illegal miners. It's not only legal miners that are in Benue. We have a lot of illegal miners, and the activities are usually associated with insecurities that we are having in some places.
Sometime in March this year, the Benue State government impounded my clients 15 trucks. As we speak, those trucks are stationary in one place in Adipo, in Kwande local government area of Benue State. We wrote a lot of letters appealing to the Benue State government to release these trucks to no avail.
Let's head to another legal issue. This time, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has ordered the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, to account for payment of 729 billion naira to 24.3 million poor Nigerians for 6 months. The court also ordered the former minister to provide a list and details of beneficiaries who received the payment, the number of states covered, and the payment per state. The judgment, which was delivered last month by Honorable Justice Dane De Isaac, comes after a Freedom of Information suit brought by the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. Let's talk politics, where the Kaduna State chapter of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has passed a vote of confidence on Governor Uba Sani for achievements in his administration. It has recorded in the last 1 year. This was disclosed at the State Executive Council meeting attended by the Governor, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Tajuddin Abbas, and other party chieftains.
Our governor is a peacemaker, a bridge builder, and we have seen how he has brought the state within a short time to a very united state.
I want to use this opportunity to congratulate our governor for 1 year in office. The 1 year has been characterized by a lot of achievements, both in terms of peacemaking, infrastructural developments, and so on and so forth. I believe the next 3 years will be more successful. It will be more impactful in the lives of our people. I want to urge you to maintain the tempo and find means and ways of improvement.
Let's move on now. Lawmakers urges citizens to demand for now, without a voter register that is thoroughly cleaned up by Independent National Electoral Commission, the nation's election may continue to have issues. These are the thoughts of the chairman of the House of Committee on Electoral Reforms, Adebayo Balogun, in an exclusive interview with Channels Television. He appealed to Nigerians to believe in the system enough to demand accountability from the leadership. Now you can catch that conversation with the lawmaker later on Newsnight by 9 p.m. today. Let's move on to the international scene, where France's Prime Minister Gabriel Attal has said he would offer his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron today. That's Monday, after his party failed to win a majority in parliamentary elections. But he added that if his resignation is refused, he was ready to remain in office as long as duty demands, with the Paris Olympics due to begin 3 weeks from today. Meanwhile, an alliance of French left-wing parties was on course yesterday to become the biggest parliamentary bloc by beating the far-right and President Emmanuel Macron coalition, according to surprise projected results. Let's now talk sports. Lewis Hamilton has won a race-long fight with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris at the Paris Grand Prix to take his first victory since December 2021. So it's been a long time coming. Hamilton had just enough to hold off a late charge from Verstappen's Red Bull to take his 104th career win and his 9th at home to become the record holder for victories at a single circuit. Verstappen, who has struggled for pace through much of the race, that was hit by 2 separate periods of rain, came alive in the closing laps to take second place from Norris, who grabbed the final position on the podium. Hamilton is driving in his last British GP for Mercedes before his move to Ferrari next year. So congratulations to the winner. And those are the stories we've been tracking for you, say, in the last 24 hours and earlier this morning. And of course, it will shape our conversation for the show and later on in the day. Bukola joins me to bring us up to speed with what's going on. Bukola.
Hello again, Jeffrey. This morning, Jeffrey, Nigerians are wondering why, the abnormal, the absurd becomes the normal. Either it's in politics or it's in our society or it's in the economy. So we're starting off this morning with national grid collapses. And the first person who is reacting this morning gives us a breakdown of dates when the national grid has collapsed. So we're starting off with CHXTA, that's the name, and the person rules out the dates: 4th February 2024, 10th April 2024, 15th April 2024, 11th March 2024, 12th March 2024, 28th March 2024. There you have it on the screen, 6th July 2024. And he ends by saying, or they end rather by saying, these are the dates of national grid collapses in Nigeria in 2024 thus far. A record 7 times in 2024 alone, not counting the number of times that national grid collapsed in the year 2023. So, valid question to ask, what's happening with our national grid infrastructure? What's happening to the budget? The budget for 2024, how much has been set aside for infrastructure renewal for our national grid such that we stop experiencing national grid collapses? And what's happening to our partnerships with other international companies in the area of, provision of power supply?
Well, at the end of the day, when we had a conversation with the expert, they said, as long as those things that are supposed to be done are not done, you should be expecting. So, national grid collapse, as long as the things are not done, it will be like malaria. It's going to be with us. So it will keep collapsing until it is fixed at the end of the day. Let's go to Taye now. He says, Titus Joshua 16 says, no normal thing already. Every now and then, national grid, they collapse. So I've explained what the experts say. There are certain things that has to be done. We don't want to get to the technicalities. If it's not done, let's expect more collapses. So that's what it is.
Very depressing one there. And the next one is from Olawale, and he has just one line for us, and he says, if national grid come back this world, he go avoid Nigeria. Well, that's if national grid has a reincarnation. If it reincarnates, it would not, come close to Nigeria.
Yeah, that thing occurred around 3 p.m. yesterday, I remember. Big Sam Baba says, this national grid problem by now should have been a thing of the past. Not yet, brother.
Yeah.
Or sister.
Not yet. And Emmanuel Odomelam says, I think we should all contribute money to buy glucose D for the national grid because I don't understand why the collapse every fortnight.
Yes, so, but the government has gotten some loans to revitalize that sector. I think to the tune of over, there's $500 million, if I'm correct, for power, and then another one for renewable energy. But we need to, I think more than that about that. Yeah. So we hope it's going to be implemented.
Okay, so this next talking point is about the president stepping aside as ECOWAS chairman, but it's instructive to also note that he has been re-elected as ECOWAS chairman, and we saw him speak earlier on.
Yeah, he accepted the position.
During the top stories. And the first person commenting is Rashida, who says, congratulations to our well-deserved president. Unity and development of African countries continues.
SL5 with so many numbers. Congratulations, our dedicated President Tinubu, for being the re-elected chairman of ECOWAS. Well deserved.
And Siri Jones MC says, how them take re-elect person we step down? Now, wow.
Well,
but it's
he has
possible
to step down first
and then he can be re-elected.
But the point here is that Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger are still not on the table. That is a big one that he has to do to work on, to make sure that those guys come back to the table. Olhaza said, we hope for a change with this new appointment. Congratulations, sir. But we'll move on to court ordering the former minister of Humanitarian Affairs to account for over 700 billion naira in terms of the distribution they did to poor people. But this is instructive that it came from the suit filed by Sarah. Socio-economic rights and accountability. They will sue for you to bring to account for it. So they got a court order to that effect. So Sani Aminu Moham 4 says, this is why I don't encourage this so-called sharing money or foodstuff to the poor of a thing. Everything will never get to the poor.
And well, it's also instructive to note that there's also an ongoing investigation by the EFCC into that ministry of the former minister and the suspended minister in the life of this administration. So this next one is from Samuel Ugonna Benson, who says 729 billion for 24.3 million poor Nigerians for 6 months. Poverty alleviation program funds for poor Nigerians just vanished, just like that, without any detailed accountability. Payment of 5K to Nigerians.
Okay. Serap Nigeria, well done. That's the complete part of your story.
Yeah.
Chibuzo said ministers and other public officials probed by Auditor General's report for improper use of public funds should be made to refund public funds quarterly and yearly, and there should be sanctions to prevent corruption. I just remember now that there was it Accountant General? I've forgotten that position. They talked about almost 100 billion.
Over 80.
No, almost 100.
100 billion.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to follow up on that case. Bukola, you have the next one. There's so many corruption cases.
This last one is
so
from...
we need to follow up. Allegedly, by the way.
I think he later went on to get a chieftaincy title in his hometown. That former county general.
Well, if people can give him title, Nigerian state wants our money. If he has it, that's the point.
This next one is from Erlis Ibanga, and he has just a line which says, court order is good, but implementation is better. Well, so it's still an ongoing case with the courts, so let's find out how it turns out. And if this will be dispensed with, as quickly as possible, and justice will eventually come out regardless of who filed the suit, because you noted earlier that it was Serap that filed the suit.
Yeah, Serap, they will go at you at all times.
Yeah.
Zamfara lawmaker sponsors mass wedding of 105 orphans. So that's the story about this. But this is what you're saying. Is this 2024 in Nigeria, sorry, in Zamfara state? Or are they still in 1930? Why is this a priority over education for these children? So, big question.
Well, this next one is from Omoya Teacher, who says, using state funds to sponsor mass weddings or sponsoring individuals to pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia or Jerusalem on religious grounds should be prohibited in the Constitution. So it's instructive to also note that what were the ages of these 105 orphans? How many male are there? How many female are there? Have they lost opportunity for education, opportunity to make choices about the future for themselves? We need more details, and we need, the future of our children to stop being cut short by religious and cultural practices.
Okay, Lucky Man, comrade _ Lucky One says, so instead of sponsoring them to go to school, marriage is the best alternative. Wow, just wow.
Indeed. And this next one is from Bami Tim, who says, an average northerner is a socialist. How would you sponsor marriage of people who can't even feed themselves? When this happens, the poverty multiplies. Create an enabling ground for people to thrive. Stop spoon-feeding your people.
At news _ brief _ says it would have been better if research is done. Example, 50 of them should be sent to school to have skills or so. The remaining 55 should be married out. Then check back after 10 years to see the result of both tests. This will at least help their decision making subsequently. This guy is a good analyst in his own way.
Well, let's move on to the next talking point.
That way.
And it's about genetically modified organisms. And, it's a product of a research by yet to be identified researchers, I believe. And it says GMOs are safe for human animal consumption, according to researchers. But there's an ongoing debate on that. And we've delved quite deeply into that conversation, and we know that there's a huge gulf between those who are for GMOs and those who are against. But this first person says, whose voices, by the way, the main concerns around GMOs involve allergies, cancer, and environmental issues, all of which may affect the consumer. While current research suggests few risks, more long-term research is needed.
Engineer Zek Ugbede says, let them show us their research document which proves that GMO is good for human consumption, and also their bank statement for the past few months, if there will be no contradiction, I guess.
Yeah.
Trust these politicians' appointed research at your own peril.
And this next one is from Honorable Adora, EMBA, who says, no, it is not. And that was a profound one there. GMO has been banned by Europe and Russia. Why should Nigerians be forced to eat this cancer? And they end by saying, #say no to GMO, #ban GMO.
All right, Coach Shalom 77 says, Nigerian farmers do not accept GMO seed. It is dangerous both for the land and for your consumption. Europeans are feeling the devastating effect of GMO food. Most households are going back to buying organic food, which is very expensive now. Nigerians say no to GMO food. Don't allow this wicked, I don't want to use that word, to gaslight you. You're warned.
And even in countries where these products are on display in supermarkets, they are tagged such that, those who want to buy them can be guided and decide to purchase them or not.
So the GMO argument is a big argument. There's a seed in terms of food security, both and for. But hey, that's not the conversation for today. We're just taking your thoughts. We'll delve into some of our conversation for the day. We'll start with that issue around security today on the program. That issue that has been protracted for long. We seem not to win all the time. Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. But what is going on with this resurgence we're seeing, especially in the northern part of the country? We'll bring that conversation to you after this break. Join us again.
We're starting off with security. What a way to start the week, but that is what we're faced with. Just so we don't lose sight of these challenges, we have joining us on the show, Mr. Agiole Abe, who's retired Commissioner of Police, former Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State, former Commander, Police Mobile Force, Owerri, Imo, and Kaduna State, as well as other caps he has worn and is still wearing. He joins us virtually on the program this morning, as well as Mr. Alfred Ononugbo, Forensic and Criminal Intelligence Specialist, Fellow Chartered Institute of Forensic Investigation Professionals, MD Bell Protocol and Security Support Services Limited, is right here with us in our Lagos studio. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Kayode, and it's nice being with you today.
Absolutely. Let me start with Mr. Abe. While it may be nice to have you gentlemen joining us and, have this conversation, but the conversation itself is not palatable, I must say. We've seen what is playing out in the Northwest, the spate of kidnappings and killings. Journalists are not spared. Judges are not spared. Lecturers not spared. Even the aged, the young, they're not spared as well. And we've seen what's playing out in the Northeast as well, the resurgence in Borno State. We've seen bright spots, I must say, even in those areas, and even in Lagos. I mean, we saw the report of the killings of those suspected kidnappers, and the arms that were gotten from them. It's a mixed bag, but it looks like the negative is outweighing the positive. We're in July 2024, more than 1 year into this government, and at all levels, federal, state, and local. What's your diagnosis, Mr. Abe, of what we're currently grappling with in Nigeria to begin with?
Thank you, Kayode, for having me around. And like you said, honestly, the situation is not what we expect to be. But however, we will look at the current state of kidnapping, particularly in the northern part of this country, and the kidnap of the journalists in particular. Kidnappers or terrorists, they have one common thing in mind: to instill fear in the public. And I think the kidnap of the journalists was done with purpose, because they know there's going to be publicity. They know that the people will get to know about this dastardly act, so they intend to send fear. However, I think we won't, like you said, in recent times, the police have had its successes. However, I think a lot needs to be done, particularly in the form of intelligence-led policing. Because if you look at the case of Lagos, and you find out that the intelligence gathering was efficient and effective, and it led to the prevention of the crime. However, I think the police force need to do a lot more than what is happening, and to prevent such incidents from happening. The Inspector General of Police have said, and listened to him, that they have acquired some technological assistance in investigation. I think they should put it into use, because such resurgence of insurgency should not be allowed to happen again. It's not too good for this country.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned intelligence, and guess what? We have a forensic and criminal intelligence specialist with us in our Lagos studio. So, Mr. Abe, let me come to Mr. Ononugbo on this one, that point you made on intelligence, and maybe we should look at the Lagos model, what happened in Lagos, and sort of try to replicate it and see how we can use that across board. Again, we've seen other agencies like the military, the army, Air Force, and the rest also recording successes. So what happened in Lagos with the police? How do we replicate it, and why does it look like we've not been able to replicate it consistently? So it looks like maybe once in a while that we see the replication of that. So is there a way we can sort of replicate that effectively?
Well, thank you very much, Kayode. Let me first appreciate the police for the awesome outcome of the recent incident that took place at Ladipo. is quite commendable. And I'm also using this platform to condole the families of the 2 journalists that were taken away. We share their pains and we pray that they should be released as quickly as possible, God helping us. For the Lagos template, let me borrow the word template here. I think it's a coming together of many factors. The agencies and the people. You see, when there is that cohesion, when people begin to see safety as a collective business, intelligence gathering becomes more efficient. And I think it contributed or played a major role in what was achieved in nipping the attempt that was made at a target in Ladipo very successfully. How do we replicate this? I think it's a factor of national consciousness. The agencies need to use the Lagos experience to educate the people. There must be certain things that happened that helped the police to succeed. Such things should be noted and communicated. People should be made aware of their roles in fighting crime. And like I'd always shared, crime do not take place in isolation. It comes with collusions, collaborations, and people facilitating crime knows where, when, and how to make contacts and succeed. It's a business, and you don't make success of a business you are not too well grounded on. So I see that to have played out here. So if we are going to talk about replication, even though to me it's too early to begin to clap hands, this is one of very exceptional success we've just recorded in Lagos. We look forward to more. And by the time we begin to gain more ground, we will start learning how we achieve these results and begin to use them to prepare other environments.
So one of the things I wanted to take you on is the issue of the confidence of the people which you've mentioned. How much of that has, because people may know what is going on, let's say at the community level, maybe not necessarily urban center, where all of us come from a village where we literally know each other. In cities, you can live in a neighborhood, you don't even know your neighbor because of that isolated, everybody just mind your business kind of situation. So, but people are concerned most of the time about their own safety. If I disclose this information to, say, the agencies and the police, how safe am I? So I would like you to speak to that, because if that is tackled, whether by legislation or by whatever, I think it's going to go a long way. But you are the professional. That's why I'm taking that issue of intel to you before we go to our guest on the Verizon.
Well, I think it's a factor of national orientation. You see, people can't function above or below what they are aware of. The agencies must do a lot to bring people up to speed with certain expectations and requirements in intelligence gathering. Ideally, every one of us should be part of providing relevant information to security agencies. Things we see, activities, new people in town, movement of people and, goods and stuff, gives us some tips on what is usual and natural in an environment or community. By the time you begin to see strange activities and movements, new faces, activities that are not common, people missing their way and they're just asking for the wrong directions, these are signs that a new guy is in town, new movements are being witnessed. And I think the more we see and do of that, we begin to see some alignment. Also, government needs to become transparent with the people. We have a history of Nigerians not believing in the government, even when they are speaking the truth. So we've had that big divide, except we close up on that. And how do we do that? We live in a country where we don't have the office of the citizens. We have individuals who are projected as citizen 1, citizen 2, instead of the people becoming the citizens and owners of the nation. It's an irony we have not defined and found a solution to. But until that happens, the idea that the safety of everybody, including the big people who have exclusively created security and safety for themselves, because that's what we have right now. So when we begin to see safety for all as our project, as our mandate, that will go a long way to eliminate the lack of cohesion that has been affecting intelligence gathering and also the safety of our communities.
Mr. Abe, your take on this particular one, the reason I'm asking is because these criminals, they can have people embedded in the folks. How do we catch them?
Yeah, there's no magic to it. It bogs down to intelligence gathered by the security agencies. And I think in this regard, a lot have been achieved. Maybe there are no publicity, but I think we have incidents where people within the community provide information to criminals. And in most cases, the police force have been able to fish out such passes. And I think the people, like the last speaker said, need to own up to their security. They need to provide information. The issue of each time this discourse comes up, we find out that the people think they are not safe. But a lot of people have been providing information to the security agencies and they are safe. I think we do not have higher cases of informants or the people providing information. The police have a program. They have this police community partnership, and it's been working well. And through this medium, I think they've been assisting police greatly. But in the larger extent, I think the people need to provide information to security agencies so that they can be able to do their work properly. And more so that intelligence-led policing has achieved a lot of successes. And how do we get this intelligence? It's still through the people. So I think the people should be able to build trust in the police force and provide information, not just to the police force, but other sister security agencies, so that they'll be able to achieve a lot in this regards.
Mr. Agiole, I'm going to stay with you for good reason. I'd like you to speak to the Kaduna situation, particularly because, that's where Chikun local government, to be precise, is where we recorded the latest kidnap. And just 3 months ago, there was also the kidnapping of more than 250 students. So what is it about Kaduna, which one would have thought would be impenetrable, because that's where we have our defense installations? So what is it about Kaduna, that is a major cause of concern in terms of topography, in terms of vulnerability, that perhaps, the government is not paying attention to, that should be addressed, such that security concerns there can be addressed?
I think I happen to be Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State. And when you look at Kaduna State, yes, we have military installations in Kaduna State, and I wouldn't agree that a lot has not been done. A lot have been done in terms of crime fighting in Kaduna, but it's much more difficult to conclude that we can completely eliminate crime in any society. Kaduna in particular have a lot of exercises by security agencies to cope out the menace of these criminals, particularly in these areas we are talking about. We have a lot of operations that has been on and has still been on. And however, sometimes because of the vulnerability of the location of Kaduna, it's surrounded by forests, it's surrounded by Niger State, there are a lot of places that these criminals can penetrate. And the vegetation is so thick that sometimes under the cover of the vegetation, these criminals come in, and before you know it, and some of these locations that these incidents occur are actually not in the city centers of Kaduna. So you find out that they use this opportunity to strike and run into the forest. But I think a lot has been done in this regard to apprehend these criminals.
So, Mr. Ahmed, do we need more reinforcement? Do we need more boots on the ground in the forests of Kaduna? Do we need more arms and ammunition for the boots on the ground to be able to tackle crime effectively? And perhaps you might also want to tell us more about, those border areas with states that, those terrorists find it easy to come into Kaduna from.
Initially, there used to be this operation, Sharandaji. I think over time it's weared out. But I think if you put every boot on the ground in that forest, it's so vast that you might not be able. What we need is constant surveillance from the air and intelligence gathering, so that we'll be able to know the movement of these people when they come into Kaduna State. And in most cases, they come at night where it's much more difficult to detect movement, but with intelligence gathering, the villagers can be able to provide information. And then we have to have cognizance drone from time to time, trying to monitor some of these border towns, so that we'll be able to detect the movement of these people. And overall, I think the security agencies need to redouble their efforts to ensure that such incidents do not occur in future.
Let me come to Mr. Mononigbo. Bukola, do you have this?
Yeah, well, very quickly, let's just look at another area, which is terrorism financing. And, some months back, the federal government released names of about 19, and there were a lot of sordid details inside the revelations of those names that were financing terrorism. I think one name is on trial currently in that space. One would have thought that the revelation of those names would, would provide leads into accounts that are financing terrorism, and we'll have more success stories. But do you see a lot of results in that space, Mr. Honorable?
Well, I'm careful when it comes to issues like this. First is that the pattern and the manner sometimes some of these very sensitive security issues are politicized, weakens the efforts of the security agencies at going after these people. These are people, if established that they were financing terrorism, that have a lot of interests, and they are extremely dangerous. Anybody that makes such money and is able to transmit them to locations where they are deployed for terrorist activities should be considered not only dangerous, but a very harmful personality in any society. But the way they are being managed, some of these things shouldn't find their ways to the media and to the press. Yes, the government should make effort to brief the public on what they are doing, how they are going about to stabilize the society and make sure that we have safety and less crimes. But sometimes this information gets to the wrong hands. And by the same vein, we are feeding the terrorists and their sponsors with information on what we are doing and what we are not doing. And by that, you weaken the capacity of the government, and particularly the boots on ground, to effectively engage and neutralize their capacity to inflict pains on us. So there are many other ways that the terrorists have used to finance their activities. I'll just hint you on a couple of them. We have a lot of KK moving around cities, bikes, commercial motorcycle riders. They have their points of transmission. They move on from family to, free platforms to people in localities who take the cash and give to these people. There are also bank robberies, there are kidnaps going on because they've kind of mutated into a commercial enterprise. So they generate a lot of funds. Apart from those who are established financiers, they've also developed network. They have used ransom, they've taken communities and placed them on tax. They generate a lot of funds. So these are concerns. And like my brother said, there are lots that will be done and are being done probably. But because the terrain is bad, we don't have enough men on ground. The police cannot boast of enough manpower to sustain this war. The military as well. We are a country of over 200 million people. And the strength of the police and the army are not up to 2 million, if I'm not, playing down on their capacity. Now, how do we engage with this, high figures that we are reeling out everywhere? So the way these people get funds are very succinct.
Right.
And if it's not studied and, we find ways to curb them, it will be a difficult task for anybody. Even if they put these men on trial, they might have many more people who are even involved, including people in government and even in security services.
And you wonder really just how hard it is to get to the heart of it. And that speaks to possible complicity, connivance at the very top. And we've had a former president saying that there might just be in his own, presidential villa in his cabinet, literally. And that shocked a lot of people, but it speaks to just how deep this issue is. But I also want us to speak to something. It looks like there's a connection across board, whether it's obvious or not. So arms and ammunition were, for example, they were intercepted coming into the country from Turkey. One in Rivers State and in Lagos as well. This is not the first time, by the way. We've had it in previous times. And you see hundreds, over 1,000 if you add together the recent one. And then you hear President Bola Tinubu telling ECOWAS leaders that they need to put more funds into protecting the region. In fact, there's something that they are coming up with, the ECOWAS Standby Force, right? And they say that this is meant to also help in curbing terrorism particularly. So I'd like you to speak to how much of what we're witnessing today in Nigeria, the insecurity, is a regional thing, i.e. our borders not being as secure as they ought to. So there's always that influx. So sometimes people tell you that they don't even know border. They just commit a crime here and move here and go back and forth. So how much of it has a regional angle to it? We'll speak to Mr. Aguilar on that one as well. And what is the importance of this possible ECOWAS standby force?
Well, the regional effort is commendable. I hope they push it through. But there are factors that are encouraging these breaches. One is poverty. Now, when politicians are coming to power, they promise heaven and earth to the people. And people hear them out, believe them, and try to vote. They manipulate the voting system, and wrong people are put. People who probably are favored candidates of whichever parties or organizations that feel they should win. And then when it comes also to appointing people to serve the people, it's done by patronage for loyalty, not merit and antecedent. These are little remote things that build up to the compromise we see on our border communities because they're extremely poor. They are incapable of making certain decisions for themselves. They can't sustain their own livelihood. They depend on people who come and drop stuff here and there. So when they are confronted by criminals who have clear intentions and the resources, they buy their loyalty. And when they buy their loyalty, they make their society, their communities vulnerable because they do not know the actual intentions of these people buying their loyalty. And by the time they take them as slaves, it would have been too late to make any corrections. And of course, they come with massive force and threats. People are subjected to fear. They are not capable of saying no to anything because they would have used brutal force to show you that not to comply with their requests and expectations will be visited with extreme punitive measures. So people are subdued. They are afraid. They can't even open up. Some communities are under the control of terrorists. For instance, Goza was once taken by the terrorists, and they hoisted their flag in that community and established an emirate before they were finally repelled by the Nigerian security forces. Now, the fear, the phobia of what happened in the past has not left the people. It's barely 10 years ago, and they're back with 3 ladies, 3 women, detonating IODs on themselves. So these are deterrent measures that these people use. So when we now talk about dealing with this subject, it gives us concern. Can we address the poverty and unemployment levels across the country? Without that, people are desperate. Today we are dealing with all manner of criminalities because people are not sure of where their next meals are coming from. And we have begun to see where wrongs are called right. People make illicit wealth, whether in politics or through Yahoo, or even sending a driver to go and buy petrol at a filling station. The man takes away some of the money and gives you the impression that he has bought it. He can collude with the pump attendants and produce a receipt for you. There is a receipt generation system over the years in government. Civil servants are not as rich as they present themselves. You see people driving cars, living in houses that if you calculate their total salary and benefits through their 35 years of service in government, there's no way they could have such wealth. And we have these people in politics because they must sustain their criminality. So one cheap ground for them to foster their activities is the political terrain. Then they become our leaders. And we expect that they will change overnight. These are some of the problems. If we don't deal with it, the trust, the cohesion, the capacity to fight as one will be a very long dream to come through.
I think that question, let's direct that question to Mr. Abe. CP, maybe you can respond to that as well.
Has been on for quite some time, and I think the time is now for a concerted effort to be made by the state to ensure that some of these issues are addressed. In policing, one of the greatest problems we know that is responsible for all forms of criminality is the issues already enumerated by the last speaker. And I think this boils down to the state doing the proper thing, enacting laws, creating opportunities for this teaming youth to get engaged. Because once these youths are engaged, I think it tends to address some levels of criminalities. So in essence, we need a state, we need a government that will provide for the needs of the people to be able to discourage them from an idle mind is the devil's workshop, so they say. A lot of these youths are jobless and they're in the streets, honestly looking for ways to which they can make ends meet. And I think when we provide certain opportunities for them, most of these issues will not be completely addressed, but honestly, it will be reduced to the barest minimum. But for now, honestly, the youth are actually jobless, they are angry, and you find out that any opportunity they find, they go into crime. And this is not too good for the nations. Like earlier mentioned, the police force does not have that capacity in terms of its manpower to be able to tackle some of these crimes. That is why I particularly advocate for a kind of intervention through technology. This could address the inadequacy of the manpower within the force. I think we need to provide certain technological assistance to the force so that they will be able to monitor the activities of some of these criminals. But for now, we have an issue at hand, and it's not too good because the level of criminality, we must admit, is is not in the best interest of this country.
Let's speak to what's in the state's capacity, which would be deterrence at the judicial level, and whether or not the handling of these matters by the judiciary demonstrates the magnitude of the consequences of the crime that we see on society, and we could mention the killings. Thousands of people have been killed since 2009, that Nigeria began to deal with insurgency and terrorism. And let me just mention that in April this year, the Federal High Court in Lagos convicted and sentenced 2 businessmen for unlawful importation of 1,570 units of arms. And also in May 2013, a Nigerian court sentenced an alleged member of the Iran Revolutionary Guard to 5 years imprisonment. In fact, the earliest conviction of April this year, the convict was given an option of a paltry 1 million naira fine. So if this is, how, deterrence, this is the only consequence that comes as a result of the judiciary's handling of the matter, is it a strong enough deterrence for those who are importing arms into the country if they can get away with what they're doing? I'm going to start with you in the studio, Mr.
When people are not properly sanctioned for their actions, you find out that...
Okay, go ahead.
When people are not properly sanctioned for their actions, it does not create a conducive atmosphere in a country. Honestly, just in 2 years, or as you said, we just have 2 convictions. That is not too good. People must be held liable for their crimes. And we have a lot of incidences and a lot of people charged to discourse. I think the court must also play its role in ensuring that justice is meted out to these people. Otherwise, it will send a wrong signal to the society. There are a lot of issues that are also pending in court. They also have their own problems like any other agencies have. The issue of enough judges, the prisons have their own issue, oversaturated prisons. You find out that it bogs down back to the state. The government must create every institution, make it efficient and effective so that they can discharge their responsibility properly. Otherwise, we keep having the occurrence of these issues and keep coming up.
All right, Mr. Onanubo, a low-hanging fruit, according to the president's promise in his mandate, the agenda he came with in terms of manifesto, is the issue of police reform. And reforming the police, he said, is going to ensure that VIPs or police that are attached to the VIPs are removed, and then NSCDC can do all of that work. That's a low-hanging fruit. My question is, why is that so hard to do after a year, so that our policemen can focus on what they're supposed to do?
Well, it's like asking why we cannot eliminate mechanics and replace them with engineers. Our society have come to create something that we're living with. One of which is, for instance, when Mr. Abe was talking, the criminal justice administration system. We draw these people from the same society. It's like taking poisoned fish out of the poison pool because the pool is poisoned. These law officers live in the same society. They have a fixed salary. They are buying fuel above their income. They are running generators. They have to ride cars. They are driving in cars that are over and in excess of their direct revenue from their jobs. So when you put this together, and the man sits at the bench adjudicating over matters, his lifestyle does not match the profile of the job he's doing. And that affects us generally. So when we now look at the society and look at the expectations of the society, right, the challenge is, what have we put in place in order to be able to achieve our dream? Do we have the moral balance? Do we have the patriotic zeal? Do we have the discipline to, there are societies where you give a public officer graft or tips, and he will decline politely
and arrest you.
And arrest you because it's unethical.
Right.
There are certain values that make societies succeed. And I believe strongly until we're able to do that. If Mr. President is telling us that he will provide certain things and drive, you see, if you destroy the foundation, the building cannot stand. Mm-hmm. There's a foundation.
Right.
People cannot just from nowhere
I get it.
believe you and run with it. So we must lead by example. They should cut down, for instance, the cost of running the government.
There you go.
Politicians should be able to take down, they are taking furniture allowances when lecturers cannot even buy books, and we have empty labs, hospitals have no drugs, and we are battling with how much politicians take home across board, whether it's local government, state levels, or at the federal. The politicians are eating us silly. They have impoverished the country. We need these resources to build the system so everybody gets something.
Well, something to really ponder on and act on it, absolutely. But you've touched quite a number of things, but we have to anchor at this point. We have to thank you so much, Mr. Alfred Oronugbo, Forensic and Criminal Intelligence Specialist, MD Bell Protocol and Security Support Services Limited, joins us right here in our studio, as well as former Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State, former Commander, Police Mobile Force, Owerri Imo, Kaduna State, Mr. Giole Abe. I'd like to thank you as well for your time on the show. Well, we'll go to break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to, the other matter that concerns you and I, the economy. It's a roundtable, really. We're speaking with business owners, those who are in the farm. This is a conversation that is really, really on the firm burner. So stay with us right here as we delve into it.
Welcome back to the Morning Brief. So there is a consensus, and it's a no-brainer really, that if we got security right, then the economy will begin to thrive. So we want to take a close look at the economy now, particularly through the eyes of businesses that are still managing to stay afloat despite the challenges. And we have joining us this morning via Zoom, Mr. Oluwajari Fola Bolumole. He's the CEO at Chalkboy Chocolatiers. He joins us from Ibadan via Zoom. We also have joining us in our Lagos studio here, Dr. Femi Oke, Southwest Chairman, All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Also joining us from our Lagos studio, Abuja studio, is Mr. Onalo Akpa, who's the Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria. So we have practically most of the sectors covered in terms of agriculture and industry when it comes to processing. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Oluwajari from Ibadan. And this question goes to everyone. We know how challenging, we have our imagination full about how challenging business is in Nigeria. But I'd like you to, bring us closer into your space and help us understand what your motivation is for still staying afloat and what business really is like. Oluwajari, first to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's been a very challenging time for us, especially in the processing industry. We source from local farmers who grow cocoa here in Nigeria. But guess what? We buy locally at international market rates. So we purchase based on dollar rates, we purchase based on international market rates, despite the fact that cocoa can be practically growing in my backyard here in Ibadan. And but that's been the struggle. It's been topsy-turvy because imagine moving from 3,000 naira per kilo to 8,000 naira per kilo sometimes in December, 3,000 naira per kilo sometimes in October last year, to 8,000 naira per kilo in December, to 10,000 naira per kilo in January, to 14,000 naira as at yesterday when I still did my price survey. And it's been crazy. The real motivation keeping us afloat is, look, it is our raw material. If we don't use it, we would export it. Somebody else will convert it and sell back to us chocolate. So it's having to totally own that sector, having to totally refine the product and make it into a final product that the Nigerian market can consume and also export is the motivation. So not being able to do that, or say we chicken out of it because of the situation at hand, is like just deciding to give up on our natural resource.
To you now, Mr. Akpa, you're into poultry, and we know how the price of feed is affecting the eventual price of eggs in the local market. Bring us up to speed with what it is like currently, the price of feed for chickens, and how it is impacting on the price of eggs. Mr. Akpa, that's for you.
And good morning to all.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good morning to all of us. Yeah, just like my guy in the cocoa industry has said, invariably what is happening to the poultry industry today is a bad story. A bad story in the sense that today most of the poultry farms are closing down. They are closing down not because there is no population or there is no market for poultry products. They are closing down because of the cost of raw materials. And basically what we have as the essential raw materials for the production of meat and egg, that is poultry meat, is basically the raw materials of maize, soya, and other inputs that locally constitute the feed that the birds use. Today, the cost of production is too high. The price of maize is high. There is a complete near absence of maize, the complete near absence of soya, and the prices are on the rooftop. This makes the cost of production so high that invariably the final price of poultry products of chicken and egg is high. And these raw materials constitute almost 70 to 80% of the cost of production of poultry. And that is negatively impacting the industry to an extent that a lot of our farmers are losing money. And because they cannot continue to lose money, most of them are closing down. So invariably, this is affecting the industry very negatively. And we're all worried as investors. We're all worried as people who have staked all our life and money into these businesses. So this is what it is.
So, Mr. Oke, you are the farmer. Give us an aerial view of what is responsible for the challenges that these other industry processors are going through.
Well, thank you. I could say vividly that the period of which we are now is we have to be very, very proactive, especially our governors. The price of commodities is going higher, and we farmers are not happy about it. But what we are thinking we should do to ease most of all these things is for us to come on board. Most of the commodities that we used to produce most of all these feeds, they are here. The research institutes are there. Let us hire on the areas of electricity so that this thing can be produced. We are not happy too. Look at the price of egg. Most of the poultry farmers are now moving out. It has never happened in the history of Nigeria as I was born. I'm over 60. To be selling a egg for almost 300 naira. Our governors have to be on board now. Most of the governors, they have to sit down and iron out how do we. There should be a collective, an area to be like a cluster areas where they could call all those research. Most of these researchers, they are doing well, but how many are hearing what they were doing in their industry there? Let them come together. Let us see what are those things that we are importing. What and what? Can we get it here? Then the price of all those things could not be on board. Where there are problems in the light, let us put solar there. I was in US, I saw the way most of some industries are really functioning with solar energy. This is a period now that the governors have to be on board. They have to see that they hold the state. And that will ease the price of those commodities. Because we are not happy too, as a farmer. I heard what the security man was saying about insecurity. It's so alarming. There are some issues to be taken. The era of grammar should have gone now. Let us be on board. Let's sit down. What do we do? Call the stakeholder. How do we move forward from here?
All right. Oluwajare, let's come to you on this particular one. He's talked about some structural issues, legacy issues. For you, besides what he said, what sort of intervention will you see or do you want to see that can, just change things as quickly or as soon as possible? Because it looks like this is an emergency.
Okay, thank you. For me, number one issue is policy. It's kind of similar to what we have in the petroleum sector, what we have to deal with in the cocoa sector too, and especially processing the cocoa into the final product. If we have policy in place that can support local businesses, it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to be able to access cocoa less than 20 kilometers away and have to buy it as if I am exporting, as if I am selling it off to another country. There should be policy in place to support local sourcing of raw materials. This is not something we are importing. This is something we are growing. And there are quite a number of other inputs into the chocolate line, into the production of chocolate, one of which is milk. Another is sugar. I'm sure you are very aware how the prices of sugar skyrocketed. And to say that a local, somebody that is transforming, somebody that is converting the product, somebody that is manufacturing, processing the product, and converting it into final products that Nigeria can export is having to deal with a price point that is almost unbearable, that you can't even transfer to customer. That's even where the problem is. Some of this price point is ridiculous to transfer to customer because customer will not buy it anymore. Imagine cocoa products becoming luxury for Nigerians. Like, why should it be? So I think from the point of policy, and of course, there's so much you can do. Yes, we can work with some level of solar energy or renewable energy for production, but it is not sustainable. If there was at least power from the power sector, you are not having to innovate your own source of power. Power for diesel for production has made it extremely difficult. So policy first that would encourage local production, and policies that will promote export of local products.
Let's take it to Abuja. Mr. Akpa, I know that the federal government in their latest package will come to about 2 trillion naira. There's a support for business almost to the tune of 500 billion in that amount. But I want you to put that at the back of your mind following the next question I want to ask. Now, what has made eggs that used to be 20 naira, 50 naira to now be 200 to 300 naira? Right now when you go to buy, because the last time I went to buy, and when they told me the price, I was almost confused. So you have to ask again, and then they say it again, and that is the reality we face now. So what factors played in to necessitate that price increase, and what intervention do you need to bring it down? Because this is not literature review, this is straight to the people that are in the business. Is that what that's for you?
Well, thank you, my brother. You see, the problem of the poultry industry never started today. We know the problem of commodity prices, food shortages is a global affair. But the issue of Nigeria has been an issue that has been there even before the coming in of this government. We had the COVID-19, we had the Naira swap, we had the petroleum price deregulation, and we have a lot of things. The global financial crisis and then the global food shortages is actually what is responsible for the shortage of food, not only in other parts of the world, but especially in Nigeria. And I will say this, when you look at it, when I tell you that the cost of 70 to 80% cost of poultry production emanates from basic raw materials of maize and soya, you could understand that in the last 10, 12, 13 years, we've been having a lot of insecurity in this country. This insecurity in this country has made it impossible for a lot of farmers to go to the farms to farm. And when you look at it from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, our annual maize production in the last 2-3 years have been hovering between 12 to 12.5 million metric tons of maize. That is according to the National Bureau of Statistics. But when you look at it from the AFES Commodity Index, it hovers between 10.5 to 11 million metric tons of maize. That is for maize. Soya, up to today, with our agroecological favorable climate and land, we've not been able to hit 1 million metric tons per annum in terms of national production. And then for the poultry industry alone, over 4 million metric tons of maize is needed for poultry production alone out of the 12 million metric tons that is being produced annually. And when you look at this, there is this what we call demand-supply friction. Demand-supply friction, and then the activities of holders, middlemen. A lot of people have come into the grain business to hold, and then they hold and wait until the price goes to the sky, and then it starts to release them. So what we want the government to help us do is to quickly consider the poultry industry as a critical sector, because there is no industry that has contributed 25% of the livestock gross domestic product to the national economy. There is no industry in the agri sector that has provided 25 million direct and indirect jobs to Nigerians. And there is no industry that has a low-hanging fruit like the poultry industry. So to me, the poultry industry is a political affair. It's political affairs in the sense that it cuts across food security, protein supply, the health of the citizens, and trade. So my appeal is that we should have what is called economic nationalism. Economic nationalism in such a way that we need to come up with peculiar policies that will protect our food system, because when you look at it from food studies emanates that, look, the food which poultry forms an integral part of it is a fundamental human right of Nigerians. And our worry is that if today, with a population of 200 million people, we are unable to produce to meet national demand and then to have the right protein intake for Nigerians, invariably we might become a dumping ground for poultry products from all parts of the world. And that is our fear. And today, a lot of people are losing money. A lot of people are downsizing. 30 to 50% of poultry farms are shutting down, especially the small scale and the medium scale operators. Then the people that are being shown out of these businesses goes back into the unemployment market. So we see a lot of negativity that is coming to affect if we allow the poultry industry to come. First, we should have national economic nationalism in such a way that we should have liberal policies that will be able to galvanize the poultry industry in such a way that we should be able to meet the demand of over 200 million Nigerians in terms of protein intakes, in terms of employment generations, in terms of livelihood creation. And then if we are unable to do this and we allow the poultry industry to go into a comatose situation the way it is going, then it is a bad disaster for this country. So we want the government to come, give special attention, special intervention fund, resuscitate the poultry industry, give a subsidy in terms of electricity supply to the poultry industry, give loans for people to buffer their production activities at below 5% interest rate as it is done in other parts of the country. And the moment that is done, the poultry industry will be what I would call...
Just land on your thoughts, sir. Just land on your thoughts in 30 seconds.
An evolution into the agricultural system in this country.
Fantastic point you've raised. Let me come to you, Mr. Oke, on this one. We've talked about low-hanging fruit. We're talking solution. And one of the things you raised when Bukola asked you that question is the issue, let's come to the table. I know you mentioned that a couple of times. Now we're on the table, for instance. What are you proposing? What are you going to be discussing? What exactly are you saying to the government that you want to discuss in this roundtable?
Firstly, we should look at the ratio of the national budget being given to our agri sector. I've never seen a period that is over 3 or 2.5% from the national budget. It's uncalled for. We've taught there's no way, even when the past government were there, they were able to, they had some programs in Senegal also, that it was all agreed for the African president, that minimum of 10% of the federal allocation should be given to Agric. Yoruba will say, that we didn't even look back. So the thing is started from there. Agric should be taking more cognizance and should be on top of the budget. And from there, they could now analyze livestock, crops, arable crops. Then money could now be ventured there. But when you are giving 2% of the federal allocation, where will you start from? How will you begin? All those things it's uncalled for. We know where the laxities are. So government should now be able to see that Agric is a major thing in Nigeria. Like our slogan, we said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. We can't do without food. So if allocation is being given, which is the right one, the agencies involved will be involved. I can take you an instance. Some years back when I was growing up, if you go to a farm, you will see some extension officers coming to you. What did you plant? Oh, how is your plant doing? How is it okay? Oh, no, you have to space it. You have to do this. How many are you seeing now? So those are the areas. They will tell you there's no fund. You may not even find them.
Those extension officers, are they from local or state governments? Or
federal.
Federal, okay.
Posted to all the states where there are offices. The same thing, plant quarantine. Plant quarantine has to visit your farm. Because most of the things we do exports, we do plant. They have to check it and see that it is okay. We use appropriate seed, our soil have been tested, all those things. Government agencies have to come on board. A committee should be set up, including the farmers and all the agencies. Right. Recently, NAFDAC, about two days ago, Professor Moji Adeyeye, under Business Day also, called most of the stakeholders to enlighten us what they were doing. And from there, we were able to tell them that most of the small-scale businesses were not even being registered. Why? Because of the bottleneck there. How will you even register pure water? They will tell you, go and bring a house, go and bring this, all those things. So, and we're happy to hear that from her, that it has been slashed with 50%.
So finding a good balance, regulation, and then the ease of regulation, so because food is quite important, particularly in this time. But you've made vital points, so we can have like a rounded discussion. I'll take this to Oluwajari now, and it's quite revolutionary what you're doing, Oluwajari. We all love chocolate, or at least a good number of us love chocolate. But the fact that you are taking something that is ours and keeping it at home rather than exporting raw and then importing finished, revolutionary. So let's talk about the funding part. I know that Mr. Akbar has also spoken to funding. You've talked a bit about power. So let's walk through this. The president just inaugurated a PECC, a Presidential Economic Advisory Council, had some big names in it, both from government and the private sector. And in that, they said that 650 billion naira, which Jeffrey referenced, is set aside for MSME support. Now, this is an announcement that was made this year, just a few days back. But last year, President Bola Tinubu made an announcement that 125 billion naira has been earmarked to energize the informal sector. Also, 100,000 SMEs and startups are meant to get 75 billion naira, and that's 500,000 naira to 1 million naira, benefits at 9% interest rate per annum and repayment of 36 months. So I want to ask you frontally, this government has announced time and again some of these measures. Has any of them come close to your neighborhood or come close to you? Let us know what kind of support you've gotten from government, if there has been any. And I'm talking across board, if it's state, federal. Has it come close to you, Oluwajari?
Okay, in all honesty, those figures might exist in terms of availability, but access to them is extremely, Mr. Femi said, it's extremely stringent and extremely difficult to access. Me personally, I've enjoyed two. First of all, the COVID-19 loan. And secondly, I'm able to set up my startup in the Federal Government Incubation Center, which is not within, of course, it has been done many years, even maybe before I was born, maybe. But all those figures you mentioned from last year and this year, except if there are going to be ways of communicating it across to us, right now it doesn't. I don't know anybody that has been able to access that, at least at my scale. Maybe people at higher scales have been able to access it, but me and people at my scale, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that has been able to access it. And to a large extent, those funds will go a long way. I'm also playing in an FMCG market, and it requires a lot of funding to get it off the ground. We are refining, we are producing, we have products that is in supermarkets, but we cannot use, because first of all, in fact, I punched the numbers into the spreadsheet we used to calculate. And if I use the price of what I just found out yesterday, I am going to increase my selling price by not less than 100% if I am going to make profits. Now, so imagine transferring that 100% to a customer. It becomes something you can let go of. I'm not really interested. It's chocolate spread. It's chocolate. Well, maybe we should eat something, and maybe we should even eat eba before we eventually get to chocolate. So guess what? The producer starts getting less patronage, and of course, maybe cannot even continue business. You have to downsize. Maybe so. At the end of the day, the whole sector dies, and it's because we don't have. First of all, the cost is high. Secondly, we can't even access loans that are single digits. For example, of course, I've tried my best somehow to talk with an industry like the Bank of Industry, but guess what? The steps to even accessing the single digits through the state government is stringent, despite the fact that I've said, look, I am connected to the federal government incubation setup that has been done several years ago. So it's extremely difficult. I mean, it is not a 1 month process, it's not a 2 month process, not even a 6 month process to be able to access this. And guess what? If you wanted 10 million in January, the value of 10 million in July now is about 3 million naira. So tell me how you are going to be able to use that fund to be able to do what you're supposed to do.
What a picture you've painted, Oluwajere. So let me take this to Mr. Akpa. The richest black man on earth recently, literally cried out about interest rates in Nigeria, saying we can't create jobs with this kind of interest rate. The CBN says we're trying to tighten inflation and bring it down, but there's the effect on businesses. So the government needs to find a creative way to solve this. Perhaps that's why he's also on that, coordination council for the economy by the president. But I want to speak to you also about funding. Seeing that we have identified the problem, you have even spoken about some of the solutions. You've talked about how we need to target our funding and the rest. But let us know how soon we are, by the way, let us know if you've got the funding, but how close, rather, are we to solving this issue? Because Nigerians are at the heart of it want to know, when can I start buying egg back at 25 naira or 50 naira? First, is that even possible? And if that will be possible, how? How soon again?
Fine, my brother. My quick recommendations to what we can do to quickly address this issue is let the federal government declare a state of emergency on poultry production in Nigeria. It's critical, it needs urgent attention. Two, as quickly as possible, let the federal government make available to the poultry industry critical raw materials, especially maize, because the price of maize now, as of today, the price of maize, depending on where you are in Nigeria, goes between 850,000 to 900,000 per metric ton. The price of soya is around 780,000 metric tons for soya meal and 750,000 per metric tons, depending on where you are. The same thing for soya. Let the government declare state of emergency on poultry production, call for a stakeholders meeting, stakeholders engagement with the government, so that we should now be able to put a pathway for accelerated poultry development in this country ensures situations that the final poultry products of chicken and egg can be affordable for Nigerians. 3, federal government, as a matter of policy, should do what I call nationalistic policy, that we do not have soya. Our annual production per annum is not up to 1 million metric tons. The poultry industry and aquaculture need is over 1 to 1.5 million metric tons, and we are busy exporting these products, and then to the detriment of the local economy. So, as a policy, we should be able to call the stakeholders together, dialogue with government, come up with suggestions, pathways for further development, and in very not distant future from now, we should be able to bring the price of egg and chicken down to such a level that an average Nigerian will be able to afford it. Give us maize at subsidy, create the state of emergency, and let us call for a meeting of stakeholders where we can sit with the government policy makers and then rub minds on how to have a quick win solution to most of these problems. If not, Nigeria will once again become a dumping ground. And when that comes around, with a population of 200 million, every part of the world is looking to market their products in Nigeria, and we cannot and we should not play into their hands. That is my appeal to government.
And it's a no-brainer. We have such a huge market. Business people in poultry industry are crying, and I'm afraid, because most of them are unable to meet their bank obligations, and the farms are closing down. Oh dear.
So let government come to our aid.
And the president has time and again told investors that Nigeria is a business destination. This is where you should come to do business. But these are business people telling us about their experience. So, Dr. Oke, let me come to you now. The president had a meeting with governors. That was when he rolled out that reconstruction and support program. And he told governors to go back, come up with a plan, maybe food production plan, come back to him on that one. So, Dr. Oke, I want to ask you pointedly. People have been asking, where is the Minister of Agriculture? So let me ask you. Have you heard from the Minister of Agriculture? Have you seen his green light, or is it the red light that they're talking about? And what kind of plan should we be having for food production for states?
Thank you, my brother. Let me first address some of the issues you raised.
There's a lot of things to address right now.
Yes, I will bring them together.
That's right.
The solutions are very, very simple. The area of funding you are mentioning, trillion, million, that time we'll be hearing. This is the thing we'll be hearing for so long. How do you call farmers? How do they access it? It's a simple issue. The BOA is there, which is Bank of Agric. How many farmers are accessing there?
Have you ever accessed?
Up to now, they are still on analog. They will give you 150,000 naira as a starter. What can a farmer do with 150,000 naira? Why can't they improve on Bank of Agric? It's there. Live follow. The government should come back there. 2-3 years ago, we, all farmers associations of Nigeria, brought in a bill when the last president was there. The bill was signed on Nigeria Agricultural Development Fund. This is where the stakeholders come together, and we know each other. Accountants know themselves, farmers know themselves, all those associations know themselves. So if this bill was being signed, to implement it now, over 2 years now, it has not come on board. And you are saying we should move forward. I doubt why things are getting slow. The NADF, if it takes off today, I can tell you the ease of the commodities will go down. Because all the agencies that were there before the bill was down, we sat down. The national president was one of the people that defended it. It defended to the basis that an average farmer can easily go there and access money. And that is what we are talking about. We've identified some of these policies for government. Look at the time they did Anchor. What was the result? We told them it can't work. The CBN is doing their own without notifying Federal Minister of Agric. Federal Minister of Agric has some own jobs to do. We were even the one that told them that food security should be emanated, should be included into the federal ministry, not Federal Minister of Agric and all this cooperative. Now, where's the food security? Are we now handling it? We are in food insecurity. So there are some things we should identify.
So you've not heard from the Minister of Agriculture?
We do. He's doing well. He's doing well.
The minister is doing well.
Definitely.
In what way?
To his capacity. We do hear from him. He do most of the programs he has. He called we farmer, but to implement. I can tell you vividly. There was a program that was being before this emergency state of all this food insecurity. He appointed every farmers in every state to work closely with the governors of that state. Some states have not even called those farmers. They have to put wrong person there. Why?
Yeah, the reason why we ask whether he's doing well, because we're waiting for him. We're looking for him to have a chat with him.
Definitely.
Because of the issue of
food insecurity.
Definitely. But I can tell you, Kyari, our minister, is doing averagely well. Because the issue there is only because when you are doing some things, it's not being elaborate. People are not hearing you. They will think you are not.
No, Mr. Okay. Without cutting, the reason, not casting aspersion on this person.
Yes, of course.
Nigerians are not interested in efforts. I'll keep saying that. Nobody's impressed by efforts. People want to see results. So whatever anyone is doing with all sense of respect and people are not seeing results, they will not say you're doing well. I hope you understand, sir.
Definitely, I hear you. Okay. Like the one I told you now, he brought in all the farmers. Go and work closely with your governor. And the governor of that state ignored. So then how will you move forward? So definitely there's no result from there. Calling a bricklayer or a carpenter to work in that axis. You won't get results. All these crises will still be loomed.
So it's curious, and that's why Jeffrey's follow-up is instructive. What exactly is wrong in that space? Is it lack of funding for the massive growing of crops in states from the federal government, that is responsible for that? Or is saying, okay, to your tent to Israel, but the governors are not showing lack of commitment to massive agricultural development? Is that the case? In just one sentence or two, before I ask my question.
I can say most of the governors are not taking more cognizance, taking more into the agriculture. That might be the result, because some governors are doing well. There's no doubt about that. They are doing well, and we are now seeing what they are doing. But now everybody is now crying off the price of commodity, which is on the high side. So,
okay, I'll just take a quick reaction. This one is from Smart Ejigbo in Lagos, who says, I'm a fish farmer. The price of feed, which accounts for 70% of my cost, has increased 3 times between the 16th of June 2024 and the 4th of July, from 24,000 to 28,500 for a 15 kilograms bag of 2 millimeter size. And he goes on to say a lot of farms have shut down operations on account of cost of feed and energy. Now, let me come to, my question, and I hope that you can answer in about 2 minutes because we're gradually running out of time. And maybe I should take you to Oluwajari. It could have been appropriate for you, but let's get a holistic view now. Nigeria records about 40% loss to post-harvest waste annually. And, Mr. Oke was talking about what can be done earlier on. I was hoping that besides funding, it will also cover the specifics. And earlier on, Oluwajari, you talked about, the need, that how it is possible to have cocoa grown in your backyard such that you don't even have to, go looking for cocoa farmers. So how can post-harvest losses be reduced? In that regard, are our silos being put into good use?
Okay. I think, first of all, the distribution channels for products, post-production harvest, has to be improved on. You shouldn't have a harvest that is lying fallow in your store or your form of storage as a farmer for longer than is required. For that, you will speak to roads. Because now you start talking about how accessible are these farms by logistics companies. How easy is it for them to pick it up and move it off? Imagine losing as much as 70% harvest, where your profit on even the 100% is less than 20%. You now lose 70% of that harvest to inability to properly distribute. So distribution channels have to be improved. Secondly, storage facilities have to be installed technology for storage facilities have to be introduced to farmers in such a way that it can be locally fabricated and locally installed, such that it is not too expensive. So, for example, if the government is saying, you know what, just because we're having a lot of loss, why don't we say all these farmers, through the Farmers Association, we are not even going to give you funds. Let us install storage facilities for you. We are the ones installing the storage facilities. We have the mechanism to maintain them. We would also train you on how to store properly. Now, that will reduce a lot of wastage. Now, it is not more money. It is not more about asking for 5,000 naira to improve crop. You are asking, your problem of storage has already been solved. So that will go a long way in reducing your waste, because storage doesn't always have to be first pick up from farm, take to one silo somewhere, one grain storage facility somewhere else in another state. Some of those things might be there. I am very sure, there are local solutions to such problems.
Let me quickly comment now.
Be solved at farms.
Oluwajari, and you're a testament to the fact that we can solve our problems locally. We have another message from Samson Musa from Abuja this time around. Says, I am a poultry and fish farmer. The challenges I face in my business, that's coming from Samson Musa, they're finance and marketing. Now, those are some of the issues, and we've talked about that. So let me take this to Mr. Akpa as we begin to wind down. We're close to winding down on this now. And I wanted to, just on a final note, speak to some of the points raised here, and maybe one more thing that you'd like us to turn our attention to. That's from Mr. Akpa. Just a final note as we wind down on this. Okay, we'll try to reconnect with Mr. Onalo Akpa in our Abuja studio, but Dr. Okay, final words on this. We're beginning to anchor this.
Yeah, we will still try to encourage government that the area of funding is very, 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 very paramount, which is Nigeria Agricultural Development Fund should be implemented. They should be able to take it off, not only to appoint the ES and the is lying down there. And from there, I'm sure if most of all those things are being done, right, there will be more food production in the market, because people need funds. Okay. And the body that comprehends the NADF is a whole body that comprises the government and the honorable minister himself, so that it will ease the problem of high inflation.
We really have to anchor at this point.
Bukola, maybe you read the last message before we let it go.
Okay, so the last one is from Emmanuel Zachary, who says, I'm a poultry and fish farmer. The challenges are...
let Nigeria.
Okay, that would be let Nigeria generate alternative sources of electricity and stop depending on analog all the time. That's from Zachary Emmanuel, who wrote to us. So it's been a very, very productive conversation indeed. And we want to thank you very much, Mr. Oluwajari for Labulumole, CEO at Chalkboy Chocolatiers. Thank you so much for your time. We've also had Dr. Femi Oke, Southwest Chairman, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, who joins us from our Lagos studio. Thank you very much, sir. And we've also had Mr. Onalo Akpa, Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria, Lagos studio. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Well, at least I know how to charge for my maize that I'm planting now. It's been a productive conversation and a productive Monday. Ensure that you make the best of the week. I am Bukola Koka.
So perhaps the price of egg is going to be the gauge whether things are getting better. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeff Rizzo.
I'm Kayode Fikelu. Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.